You're watching Past the Wire TV.
You are definitely going to want to see at the absolute best Breeders' Cup seminar in the game, bar none. We are going to try and come out of the gate running, but more importantly, finish like the fastest car in the race. If things work out, we'll be shopping for Cartier diamonds. Nobody does it better. Well, we're here. We're ready.
For now.
A lot of exciting times out there, and a lot of racing to discuss.
Yeah, it seemed like it was like breakneck action all weekend long, from opening day at Keeneland on Friday, even through yesterday. A lot to go over.
Santa Anita, Aqueduct, Keeneland, like you said, Breeders' Cup a month out, and the Arc de Triomphe, which we'll talk a little bit about. Before we get to that, a major auction coming up. And I say major because it's important. Helping horses is always important. Shorebed Coffee is having their first charity auction. Some really cool stuff to bid on. But it's not so much the stuff. It's really about helping the horses at the Bridge Sanctuary in Texas. That's Margaret Ransom's rescue operation. Helps a lot of horses that might not have been helped otherwise. And anything we can do to help horses, especially retired race horses that have no homes or have been, taken out of kill pens or, saved from slaughterhouses, whatever the case may be, we are all about that at Past the Wire, in any way that we can help and anything that we can do. So with that, watch out for more information. The auction is the 16th through the 19th, but you could follow Shorebed Coffee. You could follow us and find out more information about this charity auction. And I urge everybody to get involved. And if you don't want to buy or bid on anything, you could always make a little donation to the Bridge Sanctuary. Margaret will appreciate it. But more importantly, the horses will appreciate it. And that's what counts. So hopefully we can make that happen. So everybody get involved. Get involved. Now, Breeders' Cup seminars coming up. Breeders' Cup coming up. All kinds of stuff coming up. We're going to go over some races.
Yeah, let's do it.
All right.
Let's start out at Keeneland. We'll just run through a handful of these. I think one of the bigger stories from the weekend was Carl Spackler in the turf mile. Just looked like a total monster that he's kind of turned into over the last 6 months.
No argument. I think that the surprise in that race was that he went wire to wire. I don't think that he was really expected to go wire to wire. I thought there was a chance he might, because I kind of like to get heavily into the pace, and I knew he could, but I didn't think that would be Tyler's number one plan. But it was, and he did a phenomenal job on the lead. The horse looked full of run the entire way, never looked in doubt. The race was kind of falling apart and coming back late. And Kakuli was the horse that I said on the Tracking Trips video was the one I thought was the one to watch coming out of there. But, It was a very impressive performance by Carl Spackler, in my opinion.
Yeah, I thought More Than Looks had a little bit of a tough trip. It'd be one I'd be interested in looking at a lot closer the next time. The next time he shows up, kind of got banged around going into that first turn. Was probably a little bit further back than he wanted. I will say, Carl Spackler, not to take anything away from him, but he's really, his last 3 starts has really had everything his own way.
Absolutely.
So
Had perfect trips.
yeah, and a lot of that has to do with just his athleticism and his ability to work out a really good trip, and the rider's ability to work out a perfect trip. But again, no knock on him. He's been the beneficiary of having everything his own way, 3 races in a row, and it's really turned him into really the leader of that division for sure.
Generally speaking, and again, this is generally speaking, I look to bet against horses coming off 2, 3, perfect, ideal trips that make the races look somewhat better than they were. Which is not to say that I'm going to bet against Carl Spackler, because he's just kind of turned into a beast. And I don't know whether I'm going to bet him or not. I mean, anybody who knows who they're going to bet in any of those Breeders' Cup races now, I salute. I mean, good luck. But generally speaking, that's an angle I look to kind of take advantage of, because it's going to be tough to get a perfect trip in the Breeders' Cup Mile, especially at Santa Anita, where it's a 2-turn race.
Del Mar,
rather, which it's a 2-turn race, and a lot could happen in a big field in a 2-turn mile.
Yeah. We'll keep it on the turf. What'd you think of Gina Romantica? I thought she had a pretty nice run. I think it was 106 Bayer, which I want to say is a career best for her, I think.
Yeah, I thought, and again, I said on tracking trips, I thought she was coming to one of her better races. I think the pattern showed that and screamed that, and she's become a very tactical horse also, that the rider can really do whatever ever they want with, and when she's good, she's very good. And that was her A race. Can she bring it again? I don't know. We'll see. I thought the horse that I liked coming out of Ireland, to Tarawa, Dermot Weld's horse from the Aga Khan, was really eliminated at the start. Just never got out of the gate. Was far back.
Yeah.
Her race was essentially over when that happened at Keeneland. But no knock on Gina Romantica at all. And other than maybe the horse that I liked, with a better trip, being, able to make some noise down the road. There was nobody in that race behind her that I would say, "Oh, this is the one I want to watch," or "That's the one I want to watch," or really kind of caught my eye as, maybe there was something there that they didn't get to show.
Yeah. No, she was very impressive, and definitely really took it to the rest of that field.
Did you see anybody behind her that you thought maybe?
No.
And even the Irish horse that I liked, it's a stretch saying that she could have been a contender. You know what I mean? I mean, she was eliminated, and I think maybe she could have done better, but how much better? Not really sure.
Yeah. What about East Avenue? I thought you gave that horse out on tracking trips. I thought he looked awesome, just the way he buried everybody.
He did, and he was full of run at the end. But here's another thing that, all dressed up and someplace to go, not no place to go. Alone on the lead at Keeneland, coming out of that sprint, it's a deceptive thing, because you say, well, he's going from a maiden into a stake. But how much does that really matter when they're that lightly raced and they're 2-year-olds, and out of the sprint, he clears off? You know what I mean? Sometimes those races look better than they are, and it's not to take anything against them. I like them. I bet on them. I thought that's what was going to happen. It did. Again, it's going to be tough to get that kind of trip right back in the Breeders' Cup by yourself out there waltzing. So we'll see what happens, and Del Mar's not Keeneland. It's a different kind of racetrack. It can play very differently. So we shall see. But no knock in his race. Very impressive, loaded, accelerated really nicely down the lane when it looked for a second like they might come to him. He just got sat down and really accelerated like a nice racehorse, which he is.
Yeah, I was pretty disappointed with Ferocious in there. You could kind of give him an excuse in the hopeful. He lost the shoe, and he still ran on and closed very well after even Frank Miramati basically called him out of the race and said he didn't fire his best shot today. And then something happened, and he did his best running in the last eighth of a mile and got up for second. In the hopeful, I was just expecting a heck of a lot more from him, and I don't know, it's going to be tough to back him moving forward, I think.
I'm willing to give him a pass.
Okay.
I'm willing to give him a pass because he got wired up. Horse got a lonely lead, wire to wire. I got to give him a pass for that. Was I a little disappointed? Yes, I would have liked to have seen him running a little bit better at the end, but it was his first start around 2 turns. He did have a little bit of trouble. I don't think it had anything to do with the winner, but he did get bothered a little bit, into that turn. So, I'm willing to give him a pass, and I think he can wind up running a much better race in the Juvenile than people give him, or that people may expect.
All right, we'll see. I don't know that I'll be willing to put my money behind him, but wouldn't be the first time something like that has not gone my way. Zeitlos and Jose Ortiz, I thought, you, me, and Gio all gave her out on the show last week, and coming down the lane, I was kind of looked like for a moment Jose was going to try and split horses and force his way into an opening that may or may not have been there, and then luckily for him and for us, the rail seemed to open up just a pinch, and he was able to push her on through there, and she ran off and won by 2, 3, even 4 lengths. I thought she looked fantastic. Bright work. Yeah, I think she looked like she just got like a little bit tired late in the race, and Zeitlos had that extra little bit to make it happen. But I thought that was a pretty solid race from Zeitlos, and I really loved the ride from Jose.
I agree, and I think Jose is really good at. There's 2 areas to me that Jose stands out as a rider, and he's an excellent rider, great rider all around. But I love him on the lead on a speed horse. I love him when he clears off and just goes. And when it comes to weaving through the field and zigzagging and going inside, outside, or going through, he's as good as anybody when it comes to that. I remember a couple of years ago, I wish I could remember the name of the horse, but he won a race off the pace at Saratoga where he literally was like in, out, in, out, in, out, in, out, in, out, and got up the last jump. And I was like, I don't even know how he did that, It was an amazing ride, and he's good at that. And Zeitlos, like you said, we all liked her. She definitely delivered. I thought she was an extremely generous price with as many people that liked her and as good as she looked. What did she wind up going off, like 4-1, something like that, I think?
Yeah, I don't even say it was 9-2. She was 3rd choice in that race.
Yeah, I thought that was really generous, 9-2 on her in that race. But yeah, she looked really good, and when she gets a pace in front of her, she's deadly.
Yeah. And I think it was just like some 2 weird races in there where they tried her on the turf and it ended up coming off the turf, and she ran off in like a 5.5 furlong sprint in the mud, and then they tried her on the grass and she looked fine. But it just seemed like this was this was ideally where she wanted to be, surface distance wise, and it really showed. All right, a couple more from Keeneland. The Phoenix federal judge ran a huge 106 fire speed figure. I thought that was pretty impressive, beating the likes of Nakatomi in there.
Yeah, Nakatomi didn't seem to fire at all, but federal judge is kind of getting good at the right time. He's just improving and really, coming into his own. Always showed, signs of being good, and he's delivering. He's getting good at the right time. He's fast. He can clear fast horses, and he's definitely a threat going forward for sure.
Yeah. And then yesterday we had Idiomatic return a winner. She looked pretty good. This was like, didn't she win the filly of the year last year, or female horse of the year last year?
She did, and she's the reigning champ, so to speak. I was relatively certain going into yesterday's race. And I beat her with Raging Sea the time before that, and I wasn't impressed with her race at Monmouth. So I thought, maybe she's just not as good this year as she was last year. Maybe she's lost a step. But now I'm thinking I could be wrong. And I'm thinking what we may be seeing is just Brad Cox expertly bringing her along with a very strategic campaign to have her peaking at the right time. And I'm not sure which scenario is right. And the Spinster didn't make it easier because she kind of was supposed to win. I mean, she definitely had a significant pace advantage over those horses. So when you give a quality horse that kind of scenario, they're supposed to deliver, so she did, so I'm a little confused about her. When we get out there, she's definitely one I'm going to be watching in the morning and looking at long and hard and seeing how she works and who she works with and who she gallops with and how she sounds and looks when she's getting over the racetrack, because I'm just not sure that my first assessment is right or my second assessment is right. Maybe neither one's right, but I just don't know.
Yeah, because she dominated last year. What did she win? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 in a row last year to end the year in the distaff. And then she won on Kentucky Oaks Day, and then she got beat on Belmont Day. And who got her that day? That was that Chad Brown horse, right?
Raging Sea.
Yeah. Then she came back and won at Monmouth. Then she lost in the personal ensign. So it's kind of been, first, second. So like to your point, it's kind of hard to get a read on where she sort of stands this year. But, outside of Raging Sea, she won this weekend also. Yesterday, I believe, and she looked pretty good. You obviously have Torpedo Anna in that division too. So it'll be interesting to see who is coming into that distaff in peak form, ready to fire their best shot.
Agreed. Why don't we talk a little bit about Paco? Governor Sam. Paco Lopez gets win 4,000 on Governor Sam at Keeneland of all places. Go Paco, 4,000.
Yeah, mainstay on the Jersey Shore and
it used to be Florida, and now the Jersey Shore. But Paco's had success wherever he's gone. A lot of people knock him because he's a rough rider, but he admits it. He said it when they spoke to him after that win. He goes, "Hey, I ride rough. I've had a lot of falls. I'm out there to win." Guy used to ride bulls in Mexico. had him on the show. Was a great guy to talk to. And you know, he's a tough rider, and he wants people to know that. You know.
Yeah. I remember watching him at Monmouth all the time.
Gets a lot of criticism for being rough, but I'm a fan of rough riders. You know, as long as it's not dangerous and as long as they, you know, don't cross that line, which he's been accused of doing more than once. But when you ride on that fine line, that does happen. But I like him as a rider. I think he's tough and, you know, gets the job done.
It was randomized that beat Idiomatic in the Ogden Phipps.
Oh, okay. I was thinking of this year. You're talking about last year.
No, that was this year.
This year? Okay. So she lost two. She lost to Raging CN.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. All right, let's pick off a couple of these from Aqueduct. The Champagne and Chancellor McPatrick just looked like, you know, the absolute nails in that race. Seems like he's kind of come into his own the last two races. Looked pretty impressive.
I would bet dollars to donuts. Okay. I knew Chancellor McPatrick could run before he ever set foot on the racetrack. Liked him the day he broke his maiden. Liked him in the Hopeful. Liked him in the Champagne, although I thought the two might get the jump on him and did, but couldn't seal the deal. And that one-turn mile just looked so perfect for him. Now, a lot of times I tend to shy away from a horse that's a closer going two turns for the first time because everybody thinks they're going to love it, but they don't have that same kick around that second turn. Chance and McPatrick, I don't worry about that with, because if you watch him the early part of the race in the Hopeful Champagne, he was the exact same way. He just completely shuts down and relaxes and gallops at his own pace. And when Pratt says go, he goes. That tells me that he will do the same thing in a two-turn race because, you know, he's bred to go that far and he shuts down, so he's not expending a lot of energy into those turns until, you know, Pratt gives him the cue. And when he gives him the cue, he picks off horses wide, doesn't mind kickback at all. And I would say that everybody thinks going into the Champagne that Chad Brown was probably thinking about the Breeders' Cup Juvenile. I don't think that. I think that deep down in the back of his mind, he was thinking about the first Saturday in May. And thinking, well, Sierra Leone, almost. I got a shot to go back the next year, you know? And, you know, funny thing about the Kentucky Derby, when Bob Baffert lost the Kentucky Derby with Cavanier by a sheet of paper to grindstone, literally, okay? He told me, I can't believe it. That was my shot to win the Kentucky Derby. I'll never get another shot. And I blew it. I came up short. That was it. What did he win? 7, 6? They took
Right.
After Sierra Leone got beat in the Kentucky Derby, I reached out to Chad and I said, I know what you're thinking and I know it hurts and I wish you would have won this race. But, and I told him the Cavanier story. I said, and look what happened there. So I personally believe there are Kentucky Derbies or a Kentucky Derby with Chad Brown's name on it. And when we see it, remains to be seen. But I do think we are going to see it. And it could be Chance and McPatrick.
Yeah, he looked.
Bob's
looked
got
pretty
some
good.
Bob's got some fast 2-year-olds too that we'll talk about in a minute. But you know, Chance and McPatrick looks as good as any 2-year-old to me right now.
Yeah.
And while we're on that subject, let me bring this up because Steve Haskin, who is no stranger to the Kentucky Derby, and is the man behind the forever famous Derby Dozen. Okay, he's got a horse on his radar that he mentioned to me And I thought it was interesting because, Steve Haskin is Steve Haskin. He likes the horse who's on the shelf right now, Showcase, who broke their maiden at Saratoga. All right, you probably remember, you big Saratoga guy. But he liked everything he saw about that horse.
Well, he
And
came back and won a stake at Saratoga, didn't he?
he did.
I picked him that day, and he looked like an absolute bulldog.
He won. He won. Right. He won the Saratoga Special.
Yeah.
Now, in that same message, okay, just so you know how Steve Haskin is, he told me that there's a horse that broke their maiden for Godolphin at Ellis Park that's not on anybody else's radar yet. The horse's name is East Avenue. Watch that replay and pay attention to that horse. So when Steve Haskin talks, I listen to him before I listen to E.F. Hutton. Remember when E.F. Hutton talks, people listen? Not me. When Steve Haskin talks Derby, I'm listening. And those are the two that he actually mentioned to me. So he was obviously right about one that we spoke about already. So Showcase, I say pay attention.
Yeah.
Steve, thank you for sharing that information with us. And we look forward to hearing more Steve Haskin Derby stuff. We got to somehow drag him on the show and get more out of him because he knew
that would be fun
early on. So, thank you, Steve.
What about Carson's Run? It seems like this horse has really blossomed into a decent, at least New York-based turf runner over the last couple of months. I think he's got 2 wins in a row now, maybe 3.
Yeah, he does. I mean, he always had. He's another one. Always had potential. Looks like he's finally putting it all together. I tend to think he's a cut below the better grass horses and certainly some of the European grass horses, but hard to knock him. I mean, he's delivering.
Yeah, for sure. All right, what about this 2-year-old for Bob, Citizen Bull, that won the American Pharoah on Saturday?
Bob's got so many good 2-year-olds. I can't even rank them. They're all fast. They're all good. They can almost all beat the other one on any given day, depending on what happens. I mean, he looked great. He looked really good. He's got some that just breaking their maidens that look good. I don't even know which one of his horses are going to be where come Derby time and come Breeders' Cup time. I mean, it seems like the year that they lifted that ban and said, he can run in the Derby and the Oaks, he's got a whole bunch of prospects for both of them.
Yeah. It'll be interesting to see where he puts some of his horses coming up in the next few weeks at the Breeders' Cup. I'm interested to see where National Treasure ends up. It seems like perhaps because he ran so well in the Breeders' Cup Dirt Mile last year, he's gotten beat the last couple times at the longer distances against the older division. Maybe he goes back to the Dirt Mile with him.
I would tend to think so, especially since Newgate ran so good, and they're probably going to run Newgate in the Classic. I would tend to think he winds up in the mile.
Yeah. It'll be interesting to see too which of his 2-year-olds show up in the.
And the one that won the Oakley,
well.
the Oakley, was that the Oakley non-compliant? Looked like a monster.
Oh yeah. Though Citizen Bull did get several points higher on the buyer scale, 89 for Citizen Bull, 81 for non-compliant. Not that matters so much when the horses are so young, but and just to touch on that, like I think that's a good point and something that I've been thinking about, especially like Carson's Run. I think is a fantastic example of that. Just these horses, and obviously if it's a turf runner, so they tend to stick around a little bit longer than the dirt runners, but just these horses that continue to be in training, and then they take a step up when they're 4, they take a step up when they're 5, and keeping them on the track and winning races now is always a cool thing to see, and allows you to kind of follow these horses for longer than a couple of races. Not to go off on a tangent, but they retired Timberlake, and he's standing for $20,000. Not that I know much about breeding, but that just seems like a little bit of an inflated price considering his body of work, especially during this last year. But anyway, that might be a topic for another day.
No argument from me. Now, we would be remiss if we didn't talk a little bit about the Arc de Triomphe. Blue Stocking, extremely impressive. Extremely. I don't know that she's coming. Now, she's a filly, beat the boys in the Arc. I don't know that she's coming for the Breeders' Cup, but it was a little personally satisfying to me to see that horse in the blue and red on the inside that set the pace the entire way before succumbing late. Los Angeles, who after he ran once, I said on this very show, or very channel, I should say, that this would be a Group 1 winner and can run. And he is a Group 1 winner, and he just ran in the Arc de Triomphe as a 3-year-old. And I'm hoping that he comes to the Breeders' Cup. And I'll tell you why. I thought, and taking nothing away from Blue Stocking, marvelous performance, okay? Ran right past him like he was standing still. But that was a rain-heavy course, and he set the pace the whole way. Very tough to do, setting the pace the whole way in the Arc de Triomphe. And I just think that was the kind of race that a horse like that, who doesn't need the lead at all, would get an awful lot of bottom out of. And if it didn't take too much out of him, and he got as much out of that race as I think he might have, we know that the more highly regarded 3-year-old City of Troy is probably going to run in the Classic on the dirt. I would love to see Los Angeles in the Breeders' Cup turf as a 3-year-old against those horses on a firm turf course, coming off that pace-setting trip in the Arc. Dangerous in my book. Dangerous.
Yeah. I got to go back and watch that replay. I want, do you recall any Arc runners, at least? Not necessarily winners, but Arc runners that have had success coming over for the Breeders' Cup off the top of your head?
First one that jumps out is Enable. But generally, the answer to that question is no. And my theory has always been the Arc is such a tough, grueling race. It's in my opinion, it's one of the toughest races in the world to win. And I think I said that on a show recently.
Yeah.
I think the Kentucky Derby, the Melbourne Cup, the Arc de Triomphe are 3 of the toughest races in the world to win, if not the 3 toughest, races to win. So, no, it hasn't been, there have been some horses that have been successful. And like I said, Enable, certainly comes to mind. But, every race is different. Every horse is different. This is a relatively lightly raced horse that's getting better. And I just think, he would have gotten a lot out of that. And like I said, I prefaced it with, if it didn't take too much out of him and they come here, he's another one that you and I will be watching closely in the morning if he is out there, because if he comes, I think he's dangerous on a firm course coming out of that race. He'll have an awful lot of bottom, and he doesn't need the lead. And he's a fighter. We've seen him win a couple of fights,
Yeah.
So, if he's sitting a nice 3rd, 4th stalking trip with Ryan, and, he pushes the button and he makes the lead, turning for home, or is right there in the fight, turning for home, they're going to have to deal with him.
Well, we should know in the next week or 2 what they're planning.
I'm hoping they're coming.
Yeah.
Hoping he's doing good and they're coming.
All right. Anything else you wanted to touch on?
No. If you don't have a seat at the seminar, grab one. If you're not a member of Tracking Trips, you got to hate money. We've had some good weeks. good time of year to check it out. Be a member, ride with us. You'll never starve. And the best way to learn about tracking trips, yeah, there's a ton of information on the page. Yeah, we're doing videos, but I would say the best way to learn, ask a member. Ask somebody who's a member and see what they tell you.
Yeah. Saturday was a huge day. I think you gave out 5 or 6 winners in tracking trips.
Right. And what we do is, we give out horses to watch, angles, opinions. We teach you how to cook. We don't buy you a meal. You know what I mean? So, for those people that are looking, for 5 horses in every race and the third one that you like wins and over there tooting your horn, this is not the place for you. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
If you want to be a better, okay, and have a second set of eyes and a pretty decent set of eyes that's been doing this for a long time, looking for an ace, you'll be in the right place. But, if you just want to bet every track all over the place, you know what I mean? And, 5, most races, I just give out one horse that I like, or one horse I like to bet against. Lately, I've been giving out 1 or 2 because Keeneland's been tough, and people have asked me to do that, and it has increased the win percentage, obviously. But generally, I like to give out just one horse, and not in every race, just in races that I like. If it ain't a horse that I'm looking to bet, I ain't putting it on there. You know what I mean? It ain't going to be on there. And we put trouble trips on there, like watch the Kakuli video or the tracking trips video on the shorts, and you'll see the kind of things I look for, which are sometimes the kind of things that other people are not looking for. So it's a lot of fun. We have a lot of fun, and you'll never starve. So that's that. And
all right.
Hopefully this hurricane passes me safely. Yes, we are dealing with another hurricane. Looks like it's heading to the front door. Hopefully not. Too early to tell. That's back-to-back weeks. A little discouraging, but we'll roll with the punches, right?
Yeah. That's nature.
If we get the storm surge that we're saying we might get, and we're right on the water over here, this might be my last broadcast on Past the Wire TV. With those waves up top there, last time you see me. So let's hope not.
All right. Yeah, let's hope. Good luck. We're praying for you, and hopefully we'll reconnect and do another show towards the end of the week.
Yeah, I'm praying for everyone in the path of this one, the last one, Helene, and all the future ones and all the past ones, because they're no joke unless you've really been through one. Which I had my house destroyed by Ian, finally had it rebuilt, and now I got this hovering over us. So we'll see what happens. So all you could do is keep punching.
Yeah. All right.
All right. Well, thanks, everybody. Check out the Sure Bet auction. Pay attention to that. And ciao for now. Tracking trips at Past the Wire, no matter what your level of play is. People play the horses for all types of reasons. The action, the excitement, the thrill, the challenge. Some, believe it or not, even play expecting to lose. Me, I don't have that problem. I play to win and take down scores and have been doing it successfully for a long time. This is the life I've chosen. Don't go into battle alone. I do that. And you can have me and Tracking Trips as your second set of eyes. You can be a better. Let's win this fight. Patience, discipline, like a cobra, ready to strike at the right time. When we win, we celebrate, and we celebrate hard, because the rewards make all of it worth it. Nobody does it better. Tracking Trips at Past the Wire. Be a member, unless, of course, you hate money. Nobody does it better.